Hello, my fellow seekers. Welcome to Into the Work, therapy for empaths, seekers, and the intuitively driven, where you have front row seats to therapy sessions and expert interviews that will help you define the important work that you're here to do. So I guess you actually have something better than front row seats. You practically have a seat on my couch. That's right, you will have unrestricted access to actual sessions with real people, exploring real life issues. You will continue to be inspired by powerful conversations with experts and healers that might just share exactly what it is that you need to hear to get unstuck. I am Michelle Poverman. I am a recovering people pleaser and former anxiety-driven empath, turned now mostly grounded psychotherapist and intuitive coach. I have been helping people for almost 20 years manage their limiting beliefs and anxiety to finally stop the self-sabotage and step into their gifts. I created this podcast, Into the Work, to give you a place to learn more about yourself and give you actionable strategies to finally move those roadblocks holding you back so you can go for what you want. Above all else, my hope is that this podcast is a catalyst for your awakening. If you're listening, you've already taken a step towards getting off of autopilot, and our next steps together will be taken episode by episode, waking you up to the possibilities, the new ways of thinking and being, so that you can stretch into that next level of your story. The spark has already been lit, and my friend, this is a journey from spark to brilliance. So together, let's light a fire. Hi, welcome back to the show. This is Michelle Poverman, and I am your host here on Into the Work, Therapy for Empaths and Seekers. And today, my friends, we are talking about how to reclaim motivation again. Once you started doing all your healing work and you started really diving in and like, wow, this anxiety, is starting to go away. I'm feeling better. But there's this little nuance that a lot of us aren't talking about. It is this issue. And I'm sure that if you've done some deep work, that you have run into this. And that is that so many of us have been powered by anxiety, by urgency, or by that deep need to prove ourselves for so long that when we finally heal, we find ourselves kind of adrift, right? There's no goals, there's no fire, there's no pressure, but also no direction. In today's episode, we're talking about that tender in-between place when the old fuel no longer works and the new kind hasn't quite taken hold. In this episode, you are going to learn why this stage is actually a sacred part of your growth. And sister, you have not probably recognized that because you're still enmeshed into the old framework that has alarms going off that says this isn't okay. And so we're going to talk about how to navigate this emotion, this motivational void, quote unquote, right, without judgment. And the difference between anxious momentum and inspired action, and how to move toward goals without self-abandonment or burnout. And this is a must listen if you've been doing your healing work and wondering, well, now what, right? So what happens when your anxiety goes quiet and so does your drive? This is what we're talking about here today. What do you do when the voice that used to push you, sometimes probably pretty cruelly, really not nice, finally calms down? But you're left without a map or motivation. And I want to talk to you about a space that I see a lot of healing women arrive in. And that space is where you no longer are running from unworthiness. Definitely not at the same pace. You're recognizing it, you're in the process of healing it, but you haven't yet learned how to run toward joy, towards vision, towards soul goals, right? Or with softness. And this is the moment when the burnout patterns fall away, but the structure hasn't been formed yet for your path forward. And it's scary and it's confusing and it can be deeply uncomfortable, especially for those of us who've always associated productivity with safety, right? And if, I know if you're listening and you're like, yes, Michelle, that's me, then you know what I'm talking about when I say this can get really uncomfortable. But what if this is the moment your true fuel begins to take shape, your truth, right? And so let's talk about this motivational void. So let's name it that, okay? We're just going to give it a name. And that's what this stage can kind of feel like. It's just this motivational void. It's the experience of feeling, well, I guess it's the experience of feeling nothing, no pressure, no anxious energy, or significantly less, right? Significantly less shoulds barking at you, but also no fire, no really big excitement, no direction that feels really clear. And it can feel super disorienting, even depressing. I have certainly seen people who are confusing this for depression. And you may wonder, did I lose my ambition? Did I heal too much? Did I break something inside me? But here is the truth. The void is not regression. It is recovery. Your nervous system, it's adjusting. You've been fueled by adrenaline, anxiety, urgency, proving yourself for so damn long that when those drivers start to quiet, your body and spirit, they need time to recalibrate. I want you to think about this, okay? I want you to think about this like a detox. When you stop drinking 10 cups of coffee a day, you don't immediately feel clear and energized and amazing, right? You feel foggy and sluggish and even exhausted. But the fog is actually your body's way of resetting to a new baseline. You have been pummeling yourself with all of these energies that have been depleting. That's why I called this burnout, because on some level we hit burnout. And that's why we started doing, even deeper into the healing work. And so I want you to consider that this void that you're in is actually a very sacred time. And it means that the old fuel is gone. What fueled you before is starting to go. So yes, it's a marker of success, if that's what you want to hear, right? It's a marker that you are doing something right. Just like the brain fog and exhaustion that comes with stopping coffee or eating healthy, like significantly, you start to kind of feel brain foggy because, it's looking for the sugar. Your body's looking for all the things that used to feed the inflammation. And now it's like all this inflammation is actually starting to need to be processed by the body as it's starting to go. So it is a sign that you're on the right path. However, the anxious momentum that used to keep you moving has burned itself out. And you're in the pause before a new energy emerges. So this is partly all why goals without a hustle feel so foreign. One of the hardest parts of this stage is that goals without hustle truly do feel that way. They feel foreign. And most of us were raised in systems that told us that discipline equals force, that success requires sacrifice, that productivity is what proves your worth, right? And so when you try to set goals now without the anxious fuel, it feels flat. It doesn't feel the same, but it's supposed to feel different, right? Like I said, it's supposed to feel different. However, because healing asks us to learn a new rhythm, one that's intuitive and sustainable and compassionate, it's not about pushing harder. I'm actually asking you to listen deeper. Okay, that's the shift in the behavior and in the being. It's not pushing harder, it's listening deeper. And so I want you to keep this in mind too. I want you to think of your energetic selves and your masculine energy and your feminine energy. The masculine holds where the feminine flows. Okay, so masculines hold, feminine is flow. And so a lot of us have been groomed and impacted in such a way that we are supposed to drill out, right? Just really drill until we can't find any more of this masculine energy anymore. That's what the burnout is, right? We have lived in the masculine, which is holding on so damn tight sometimes that we're forcing. And we're going to talk about that. I want you to recognize that part of what you're being asked to come back into balance, because both are positive and beautiful, but to be brought back into balance is to actually surrender and to allow and to flow in whatever's coming up right now and to trust. And that is another part that's very different in the feminine energy. And this is where many women panic, right? They think they've lost themselves. But what's really happening is this. You're learning how to shift from anxious momentum into inspired action. And boy, I mean, I can attest to this, you guys. Like, I know deep in my core, and I know you believe me when I say this, that I literally ate anxious momentum for breakfast growing up. Like, it literally was how I got it done from a very, very, very early age. And I am still constantly having to be aware when those energies start to arise in me. Certain things start to play a role. I mean, especially as I'm working in a business that's expanding and I'm creating and I'm bringing more to the table, some part of me wants to hide. And then in response to that, the other part of me wants to push and force and, be all over it and really pull from this masculine discipline. And that is what helps me get out of wanting to hide. But the reality is there's this whole other way of being that I have learned and breathed and been in, which is my feminine energy to surrender and to create through a relaxed mode, through fun, through enjoyment, through really true joy. And so I really want to help you understand this a little bit more about yourself today. So let's talk about rebuilding desire and this soul-led discipline. So how do we rekindle that spark? Because I know you're feeling like, if you're there, that you're feeling a bit of that depressed kind of void state that I was talking about. And by the way, I just want to mention in this a little story here that when I did a 3-year energy medicine school, one of the funny things year 2 that a lot of us started noticing and commenting on was how a lot of us were starting to gain weight. And it was like I went in a certain place and I certainly came out a completely different body shape almost because in order to maintain where I was at, and like a lot of us women, it was a lot of the masculine energy. And I was coming from core wounds and I was coming from, not good enough and unacceptable otherwise. Basically, I wasn't coming from a place that was healthy. And I really wouldn't have told you that going into it. I would have told you, no, my health and well-being is really important to me. But the more I dug into the stories I told myself, the deeper limiting beliefs I really truly still held, and when I really started digging into the hard stuff, something happened. Something happened. I was deeply in it in a sense that I couldn't even get myself to do a workout. And I was someone who worked out 5 days a week. I was like that. I used to call that my quote unquote mental health. And so I was like, I can't even make that happen. I don't know what's wrong with me. And I was starting to get really triggered because when we're in this state, we haven't gone into, like I said, we don't know how to move forward in it yet. We haven't gotten in the healing process enough to understand how to move forward and toward joy, towards excitement, towards love. Really, we're just healing what we've been running from. And so we haven't gotten into yet that place where that spark happens within us. And then everything becomes about, how do I have more joy? I'm hungry for joy right now. Seriously, people, like I am like, that's what I want to eat for breakfast. So it's like really understanding and holding space and compassion for yourself right now. I really had to figure this out. And when you're in this program, there were a lot of other people, especially women, who are dealing with a lot of our body stuff and how we felt about ourselves and deep down stuff that I wouldn't truly have acknowledged before, that really helped me realize that I was feeling very stuck. And I'm like, look, I'm doing all this work. Why am I stuck? What's wrong with me? I should be excelling right now. This is like 3 years of like deep work, right? And honestly, I was still there. And it took me a long bit to like really move through some of my stuff. I'm still doing it all the time, but I have the work down. It comes to me easily. I recognize when I get caught up and I am able to move myself towards joy again, but it's hard. It's just very deeply ingrained. But I want to talk to you about how to start rekindling that spark, the difference between pushing and pulling. I want to just give you this concept because it's a good way to look at it because it's everything. Pushing is when you're forcing yourself, okay? Pushing is when you're full of shoulds and have-tos. And pulling is when your soul is tugging you towards something that's bigger, something that's lighter, more joyful. And the question becomes, how do you know the difference between a soul goal and a should goal, right? And here's a simple test. When you get into something where you are pushing, right? When you recognize that feeling, it's like a should goal. It feels like you're working towards something or you're thinking about something and it makes you feel heavier and tired. And, even when you say it out loud, it's just like, ugh, right? This feeling of like, I'm going to do that. Yeah. But then deep down inside, you're just like, oh my God, that's going to be really hard. It's going to be a lot. And there's some anxiety still. There's some judgment that feels heavy. There's some way that your body experiences it just as heavy. Like just tap into your body when you say the thing out loud. How does your body feel when you say it? What emotions come up in your body when you say that to yourself? That's incredible intelligence right there when you can tap into what emotions your body is holding in response to anything that you want to make a decision on. And so then you look at what a soul goal feels like, and it's like this quiet exhale, right? There's relief in the truth of it. Even if it's big and scary, it is like, yes, this is the truth of what this thing is who I am meant to be next. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And to rebuild your desire without overloading your nervous system, we need to start with tiny little sparks of joy, right? We need some things to light us up. So I want you to ask yourself, what lights me up? And I want you to say anything that comes to mind. So when I ask people, what lights you up? Truly, and you've been somebody who has not gone inward to answer that question in a very long time. If you are somebody who has truly been outsourcing that question and that information from other people around you, which is really, really easy to do, people, okay? Honestly, I did it too. I can still be suckered into it, right? If everybody's on a certain diet, right? You're like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. If everybody wants to go to Greece on vacation, you're like, why aren't I going to Greece? Right? Like there's a way in which, especially as people pleasers, but as very empathic types and just a way that we haven't been drawing inward for our answers. And we've been really kind of pinballing ourselves like a pinball in the machine, like bouncing off what everybody wants from us and what everybody needs from us. And so we have a harder time going inward. And I really found, I probably have talked about this in the show, but I really came to this conclusion. Like I kind of knew this. It really sounds kind of stupid, silly, obvious, right? But when I started my Modern Empath Boundary Mastery program, the first thing I did was ask everybody to choose a soul goal. And it surprised me. I don't know why. It surprised me because it makes total sense. Everybody was like so triggered and so tripped up and they felt so much pressure and they almost like there was resistance, there was frustration. Like I had to, I can't, I don't know how to do this. I can't think of a goal. I can't really go inward and know that. So when I ask you, what lights you up truly? And if you have a hard time answering that, I want you to get really, really simple. It can be, Michelle, what lights me up is sitting on my deck and having a cup of coffee. Because you may not be ready yet to access that information or know how to about a really big goal that's like brewing inside you that you haven't even looked at yet. That's going to be your future self, right? You just haven't seen it yet because you truly just need tiny sparks of joy. You have to just pull out, get it from anywhere, okay? sister, you get it from anywhere, right? So if no one was watching, what would you choose to do with your time? What would you love to do? What are you maybe even building with a little bit of love? Like, was there something that you quietly are doing that you haven't really even acknowledged or, shared with anybody that you're like, I'm doing this because I love it, right? I'm just doing it because it feels good. I want you to really look at that. And I want you to increase whatever that behavior is. I want you to, you might come across your own resistance because of old programming that comes in like, oh, well, I can only do that once a week because everybody needs me all week long or whatever. I really want you to ask yourself, how can I incorporate little tiny sparks of joy? And sometimes that is, how do I adjust how I show up? Right? If it is, okay, Michelle, right now, all I can handle is enjoying my coffee on my deck. Okay, fine. So I want you to do that. And I want you to really swim in it. I want you to just sit in it and be like, oh my gosh, this warm mug in my hand, the sun on my face, this beautiful breeze coming in. I want you just to allow that to wash over you. And I want you to be present with it because you have to retrain your nervous system, right? And these questions that I'm asking you, they really help begin to reorient your compass away from fear and towards soul. And this is where gentle discipline comes in, not force. I'm not asking you to come up with a rigid schedule to make this happen. You're going to force it to happen, right? Just soft containers that hold you. Like, this is what I really want for myself. So I am going to just look for any way that I can just incorporate this into my life a little bit. And there are going to be moments where you're like, you know what, I'm going to choose this over that. And I want you just to try to bring in little steps of joy. And that's what we can call gentle structure, right? It's just a gentle flow of structure. It's not like, I have to do this. I'm going to be up at 5 a.m. This is what's going to happen. And there is time and space for that. I am not against really putting in some significant boundaries and significant structure around your goals, the things you want. Some of us truly need that. I talk about it all the time. I have this ADD brain. And if I don't have that, I lose time, right? I am at a time deficit in terms of my attention. So I'll go through 2 hours and I'll be like, oh my God, I just lost my entire morning. What happened, right? I was just sitting with coffee on the deck. I don't know what happened. And so I want you to begin, though, because you are in the in-between. That is why we're talking about gentle structure. It's different when you are in the place where you're blooming, your motivation's super high, you're jacked up on it, and it's like you're drinking the really good Kool-Aid, right? It's the good one. It's joy and excitement. And then you're like, now I want to be really excited about putting these boundaries in because this is sacred and I love it and I love myself. And so I'm doing it. And so that's very different. So right now, you're just going to, think of, instead of productivity as performance, I want you just to think of productivity as nourishment, right? What rituals feel grounding? What structure helps me feel safe but not confined? How can I build in rest as much as I build in efforting, right? I want you just to look at what kind of rest do I need right now? Some of us are like, you know what, Michelle, I have talked to women who are like, I literally feel exhausted. I can't access intuition. I can't access inspiration. None of that. In your bones that you're like, I need to check out. And that's okay. Now, gentle structure can look like starting your day with silence, right? Take some time before reaching for your phone and meditate for 5 minutes. Just take 10 minutes of time to just acknowledge. I say this all the time. I really think it's important to set intention for your day. Schedule creative time, not just work time. Saying no to what drains you so you have capacity for what excites you, because that will come. But it starts with saying no to what drains you, because you're like a dead battery, right? You're detoxing, right? So your body's in a state of deprivation. It's trying to recalibrate. It's trying to refill in the right way. And you really need to allow your energy management to protect you from draining yourself out. So it's not about proving anything anymore. It's about creating conditions where your authentic fire can safely return. And remember that healing asks us to learn a new rhythm, one that's intuitive, sustainable, compassionate. And so we really are needing to lean into compassion during this time. And so I really want to ask you to think about this as imagine nerve endings in your body just being exposed. Imagine that when your old hustle, your old way of being, would be to attack and come at yourself again, right? What's wrong with you? Get your shit together. Do this better. Like, right? The stuff, whatever it is that you used to say to yourself, right? You're not being good enough, this or that. Old limiting stories, old limiting programs, all of those would be firing at you. And those nerves in your body would be like, right? They would be like screeching to a halt, like stop. And they would start to shut down and you would start to shut down even more. And that's why we want to help you to get out of your burnout state and into a higher vibration and into a higher vibrational living, which is amazing, right? And so I really want you to allow for active compassion. You're saying compassionate things to yourself. I got this. Don't worry about it. It's no big deal. It's okay. That this too shall pass. This thing that's not happening, you don't really need it to be happening. If you did, it would be happening. I want you to lean into new stories, creating new stories, like trusting is easy. I trust that this is exactly where I need to be because the truth is this is exactly where you need to be. Because what's coming next is going to take a foundation. It's going to need foundation to build upon. Remember, this is not about pushing harder. It's about listening deeper. Okay, we're changing how we work and operate internally so that externally we can go out in the world and do something beautiful that really lights our soul on fire. And this time of void, right? This lack of energy towards or motivation towards anything, it really trips up your old self. And it's really could be very easily bring in some old programming to be like, what is wrong with you? I want you to truly step up and show up for yourself and acknowledge that when it's happening. No, that's okay. We're good. Right? This is how I would talk to myself. Oh, I would notice that I just, was like, what's wrong with you? You haven't worked out in this long. You haven't done this thing. You haven't done that thing. You haven't. And I would just say, oh, there you are. And I would recognize that part of me is scared. That part of me wants to protect me. And that part of you wants to protect you. And you simply need to let it know that it's no longer driving the bus and that you're in charge. And you just take a deep breath and you tell yourself, I got this. It's okay. I can be right where I'm at and be so much more than okay. Because right now is exactly where I'm supposed to be. I want you to tell yourself you're right on time. Because this is the space where the seeds are planted and something starts to happen. As you start to bring in those little sparkles of joy, right? As you start to bring in bits of happiness, it comes through acceptance, self-acceptance, really owning your worth and allowing yourself to just stew in whatever you're at because you're worthy of it, right? You're worthy of space to just let this stuff come up. There's probably a lot of emotion underneath there that's not been dealt with. A lot of stuff, grief, pain, things that have happened, how you've treated yourself has sort of pummeled yourself maybe in the past, and you have a lot of emotions about that really need some time to percolate and to move their way out of your energy system. And so really being compassionate and allowing for space, journaling, listening to music, going for walks, doing things that feel in that gentle structure that feel good. And this is your job right now. And I'm just asking you. I'm asking you to trust. I'm asking you to trust that this is not the end. This is not it. This is the in-between. And what's coming next needs you to pay attention to this part. It needs you to honor that this part is as important as the part before it and the part after it. So if you found yourself in this place of disorientation where the fuel is gone, but the fire hasn't yet returned, you know what I'm saying? You're between stories. And I would even call this the womb space. I've heard people call this the womb space. It's the pause before creation. It's the place where your truest self is beginning to whisper a new rhythm. So I really want you to be gentle. I want you to be curious, and I want you to trust. You are not lost. You are becoming. And if today's conversation spoke to you, I'd love for you to share this episode with a friend who might be in the same place. If you know anybody that might understand this, might get it, I'm asking you to just share the link right there in the show, because I think that a lot of us need to hear that it's okay to be here and that it's actually a beautiful, sacred space for growth. And if you're ready to learn how to move from anxious goals to soul-led goals, I really want you to check out my upcoming program, okay? The Modern Empath Boundary Mastery. Right now, at the time that this is being aired, there are a couple more weeks that I'm offering it at a discounted price because I'm doing a very lazy, very, very lazy launch right now where I'm just opening it up to people who hear this or on my email list or happen to catch it before I really go into putting it out there in the fall. But right now there's a $200 discount on it. So you should go check it out. It is where we're going to do all the work. And you can see the beautiful messages that people have put in there and see how other people have experienced the program. It really is a life-changing program if you let it be. You have to show up for it. You have to be willing to log in and spend an hour, or so every 2 weeks on just the classes. There's an online course. There's 12 modules. We're going to walk you through some really deep level stuff. Everything that is going to bring you up to having incredible boundaries, feeling powerful in the world, and really being able to step into that power. It's all of that thing you want to be in life. It isn't just about the boundaries. It isn't even just about, how that looks out in the world. What it is about is the healing of some major programming throughout your life and your traumas and the stuff that comes up. We talk about addictions. We talk about the attachments that you have to people or things or processes in your life that make you feel safe or okay. And we learn to really call back our power. And really, I teach you, going through all the different steps in each module, how to truly call back your power, and then step into your soulful goal and make that shit happen. So this is exactly the work we do. We're rebuilding motivation in a way that really honors your spirit. Go ahead and check out the program. The Modern Empath's Boundary Mastery. You don't have to consider yourself, quote unquote, an empath. It's for spiritually curious women who really want to just get out there and do the work, who really want to just come into the circle. We do weekly meetings. It's an amazing group of women, and we just hold space for each other. And that's really it. And that's what's so powerful. It's crazy. So the link is in the show notes. And if you have any questions, you can hit me up anytime at Michelle Poverman on Instagram, or you can even shoot me an email. It's michelle@sageandstone.org. That's the name of my business in person. So if you'd like to do that, I would love to hear from you. All right. I hope you have a wonderful week. Remember, my closing there, you are not lost, you are becoming. I want you to keep that in mind. I'm so excited to have you here and to have you listening, and I'm so appreciative of you. Talk to you next week. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to Into the Work Therapy for Empaths and Seekers. Don't forget to grab your free gift, your Shadow Work Transformation Bundle at michellepoverman.com. I've included everything you need to get started to break through the patterns of self-sabotage and finally start to heal the parts of yourself that are getting in the way of truly reaching your potential. From a powerful meditation designed to help you meet and embrace your shadow self, to the guide that's full of curated prompts and important questions to support you on this journey. This really can be the work for you to unmask the root cause of all the issues you've been experiencing, honestly, and start to feel free to believe in yourself and go for what you want. The link for this free bundle is in the show notes. And if you like this episode, I would be so grateful if you could take a moment and rate, click and follow, and leave a review. Of course, you can always follow me on socials at Michelle Poverman. And keep in mind, as you embark on your journey from spark to brilliance, remember, the universe is always conspiring in favor of your awakening. Everything that's happening is in support of you lighting your own fire within. So until we meet again, may your path be well lit and your heart be guided. Shine bright, seekers. Until next time.